And CASA, we have a very special role with foster children where we get to be their voice in court. So we are appointed by a judge to speak on their behalf and look out for their best interests.
And I was reading a Dallas magazine, and there was an article about a boy who had aged out of foster care, and he was describing how he had gone through many foster care homes and had never been adopted, and placement after placement he had been in, and he talked about that struggle, but he said there was one person that had been constant in all of those years, and it was his CASA. And that was the first time I'd ever heard the word CASA. I didn't know what it was or how it was, and so I was intrigued at that point. My dear friend Alicia posted that she had just trained with Collin County CASA, and I was like, that's it. If Alicia's doing it, I'm totally doing it too. And I called her, and she's been my mentor, and I jumped in, and I'm so glad I did.
It's not coincidence. God kind of starts placing these opportunities in your path and fitted to your needs and talents, and it just felt right. And so I went with it, and I got my first case, and I completely fell in love with the cause. I knew after my very first case that this is something that I would do forever.
I like to say that CASA volunteers are our eyes and ears out in the community because we can't do it. And everybody has a position in the game. The parents, lawyers do, the ad litem does, the state does, and everybody has a position except for that CASA volunteer. It's invaluable to me making the decisions that impact this kid for the rest of their lives.
Most of the children are removed from their placement with their parents because of abuse or neglect allegations, and some of those children are returned to their parents after the parents do all of the court-ordered services. Some of those children are adopted or placed into foster care long-term, and we stay with them throughout their entire time in the system.
So a case is typically open for 365 days. We have a year to work, and you think that sounds like a long time, but it actually goes really quickly. Reunification is the goal, and within that year we also have to find alternative placements if that child is not going to be able to be reunified. The parents' rights are terminated and the child has to be placed somewhere else. We have a year to try to find that. If we don't find that, or if the child does not get adopted or is not reunified with the parents, then we could go well beyond that year with the child. We'd see them through sometimes to adulthood.
There is a crucial time frame where we're vetting out all of the family members that we can find. We're creating family trees with the children. We're trying to explore every avenue of family placements before we move on to next of kin placements, or I have a case right now where we even have the child placed with a teacher.
We have a lot of time to do the finding, the digging, the searching, the calling relatives all over the nation if we have to try to discover and unearth any possible family member or family friend that would be involved in a supportive way in this child's life.
I didn't realize that a lot of the heartache that these kids were going to be going through was actually because they were removed from their families. They wanted to be with their blood relatives so much, and so they were hurting and yearning and so lost because of that. They would have rather gone back to their abuser than be separated from the life that they know.
And they're really that one that is that constant presence to the kids. So I think from the bench, I learn more about what the kid actually needs, what the child needs, what they want from CASA. And I think without that, I think that their voice sometimes just gets lost.
We get to observe the parent-child visits, and we had to get pretty creative during the pandemic because trying to talk to a 3-year-old on FaceTime and get any kind of information from them, and watching the parents try to communicate and build this bond with their kids over a FaceTime call is really, really difficult. And it was an international case where, the child wasn't able to speak the language very well to mom, and it became a very traumatic experience for him. As soon as he would get on the call, he would scream and he would cry, and it was very, very upsetting to him, and no one could calm him down. And so one day I'm observing, my camera's off, I don't usually interact, I just observe. It was going downhill really fast, and so this child and I have bonded over books. through FaceTime, I'll read him a book and we interact and talk about it. So, no one could get a word in. I just opened up my camera and opened up a book and I just started reading Dragons Love Tacos. And I just started, oh, look, pointing to the pictures and reading the book to him. And he immediately stopped crying and honed in on the book and relaxed and was able to communicate with me a little bit and talk. And then I kind of brought Mom in and we were talking, there's a language barrier there. So I'm like, can you count how many tacos there are in Spanish with your mom, And so they would count and I could kind of facilitate that conversation for them.
And I think that there is a thought that, that the experience is just terrible and heartbreaking. And while there are heartbreaking things that we see and certainly that these kids have experienced, you in this role will see resilience and strength. It's incredible to get in close to these children and families and to see what they have triumphed over and what they overcome on a daily basis.
I learned that love is a very powerful force for change. And these parents have overcome some of the worst odds you can imagine. And you're so touched to be able to see that, to see people heal and change. And yes, you see the worst of humanity, but you also get to see the very best of humanity.
I've had the pleasure a lot to swear in new CASA advocates. And during that time, I always tell them how special this volunteer opportunity is. We have so much opportunities in Collin County to volunteer in so many different things. But if you want to make a change in one kid's life or a family's life, CASA is really an on-the-ground volunteer opportunity to change lives.
I have, because of the Savior, an understanding that anyone can change, that there is hope for anyone and for everyone. When people feel loved, they feel hope. They feel like there's opportunity for them. And so we bring that love. We bring that love of the Savior in a variety of ways. And we pour it upon these kids and their families the best way that we know how. And then we hope that the Savior continues from there.